Well, I did it. I traded in the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra for the iPhone 13 Pro. I'm not going to go into all of the reasons why I switched. If you want to know about why I switched, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll make a video about it. But when it comes down to it, really, the iPhone is just better for filmmakers. I'm not saying that Samsungs are bad for filmmaking. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I get more options with the iPhone when it comes to accessories and apps, because along with that 10-bit ProRes that you get, that we've talked about before on this channel, you also get the LiDAR sensor, which opens up a whole new world of things that you can do with the phone, like 3D scanning and camera tracking and motion capture and just all sorts of really cool stuff. Here's the only problem. To use a lot of those apps, like the camera tracking with CamTrack AR and other apps, you need to use kind of this stock camera out of the iPhone. You can't use cinematic mode, you can't use Filmic Pro and all that stuff. So that kind of leaves us with the question, can you intercut footage from an iPhone with, say, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K? This is a question that's going to become very, very important in the near future. So what I did was created a little sequence, just 4 shots. 2 of the shots were from the iPhone 13 Pro, and 2 of the shots were with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. And I sent that little sequence off to a few friends of mine to see, 1, if they could tell the difference, and 2, is the difference big enough that it would be distracting in a normal video? Here's what they had to say.
Okay, so which are which, basically. Take a look at the first one here. Shot of the house, lots of colors. You got green, you got the red, you got the white. Now, in this shot here, I feel like everything is in one spot and it's pretty clear. But the little kid's toy in the front there, I feel like if this was the Pocket 6K, it would be a little bit more out of focus. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like with the focal length of the lens you're using, it might have more, and I just feel like the iPhone is putting everything in focus. I think. I don't know. This is a tough one. Color grading is awesome on this one. As far as the second one goes, I do feel like this one is the Pocket 6K, kind of based on the first example, that the back and the grass and the sidewalk seem to be a little bit more in focus, and the toy in front seems to be a little bit out of focus, hence the idea of what a traditional DSLR or digital camera mirrorless would be able to do. And I just feel like that it's been able to separate it a little better than the iPhone. Again, I could be completely wrong here. As far as the third picture goes, this is where I feel like the Pocket Cinema and the iPhone might separate. And this is where you have some dark and some light spots in the photo. And again, if this is the iPhone, it's done a great job being able to keep the darker spots up. But I feel like this is the Pocket 6K. Again, for the reasons that the stuff in the dark, there's barely any noise at all. And the focal length is pushed on the lights and the stuff in the background. The light switch is out, as well as the male right here. And those are at different focal lengths. And I feel like the iPhone wouldn't do such a great job with that. And I feel like it would kind of put everything in focus. That's a little far away for the iPhone to be putting something like that. But again, I could be completely wrong. The color grading in this is awesome. It does a great job, and I feel like the iPhone might have a worse time trying to pull off those darker spots. And as far as the last one goes, this has more light in it, and I do feel like this one's the iPhone. And again, for the same reason that I said before, everything seems to be in focus here, from the back of the room closer to the camera. And I just don't feel like this is the Pocket 6K. I do feel like this footage is a little bit over sharpened, and I feel like this stands out to be the iPhone. So again, I could be completely wrong, but those are my opinions on that. Do I feel like this would distract me watching if this is a different footage from each of the products? No. In fact, it's so difficult to tell. The only way that I'm trying to be able to tell is the focal length and the f-stop on the camera lenses. But Apple has done such a great job with actually moving into the cinema realm that being able to tell that idea that just because something in the foreground is more out of focus and what's being focused on is really tough to do. But I mean, I looked at these on my 5K monitor and I feel like it was really tough on that as well. And obviously looking at here on an iPad doesn't really seem like it's that much easier. Great job color grading it. I think the footage just came out really well. And I mean, I gotta go look at it on my computer again, Jay.
Hi, Jay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for including me in your video today to figure out these clips for you. I don't know how you filmed these clips. I don't know if you used Filmic Pro or some other app on the phone, or if these are just straight out of the iPhone app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch these clips and tell you what I think. Okay, so let's watch these clips and see what you gave us. So we're looking at the front of what I'm assuming is your house, Jay. Interesting. This one's definitely different, I think, than the first clip. Not 100% sure. It looks a little less contrasty. This looks very similar to clip 2. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so I watched them. And I'm not sure, but definitely for me, I think clip 1 and clip 4 are the same camera, and clip 2 and clip 3 are the same camera. Which is which? I'm not sure whether the 1 and 4 are the iPhone or not. I think 1 and 4 may be the iPhone just because they seem a little bit more contrasty to me. I'm not 100% sure, but I think 1 and 4 are the same and 2 and 3 are the same. Just a guess, because they all look really good and they look good together. So I don't think that there's any reason why you couldn't use iPhone clips with the Blackmagic camera. So I hope that helps. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
Okay, Jay, I'm going to attempt to see the difference between your footage here. It's 4K, so that's perfect. Looks like a 40-second clip. It's good. Got them numbered, which may come back to bite you if I can tell the difference between the numbered shots. Let's see. I'm predicting that the darks will be, and the highlights will be a little bit washed out on the, or blown out on the iPhone footage. But let's see. Okay, so there's 4 shots. 4 shots. Let's look at these. This first one looks pretty clean and the color looks good. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is the Blackmagic cam. I think, pause it for a second, let's look at these shutters. I'm thinking I'm good. Blackmagic, I think it's Blackmagic. This one, like the depth of field, like the focus seems more on the grass than this thing. It's so blurry here, it makes me want to think that it'd be from a phone. I'm going to say 2 is the phone. This one, 3. I'm going to take a guess that this is phone 2, just from the darks. There's a lot of noise going on there. Ooh, and that ceiling. Yeah, and the curtains and I think the auto balance, if that's going on. I'm going to say 1 is the Blackmagic, 2 is phone, 3 is phone. And this one to me looks more like a normal camera shot, because the blacks don't have a lot of noise in it, and the outside is more blown out, which is what you get with a normal camera compared to a phone camera, which kind of tries to find the middle ground. I feel like this is camera footage. So I think 1 and 4 are camera, and 2 and 3 are the phone. But given that this goes up on YouTube, which is going to massively compress everything anyway, I don't know that you would necessarily tell a difference. Look. Now this is in the same room. Would you be able to, the comparison shots here, the curtains, color would be a little bit different. Until there's some color shift. This is more of a light green, and this is more of a teal. So could you possibly just like intermix the shots and nobody would notice? I don't know if you could go between that. This has the nice dark green and the brown. I think a better comparison would have just been like set them up side by side and see how that would have played out. But I don't think most part anybody's going to notice. Those are my predictions. 1 and 4 are camera. 2 and 3 are iPhone. Going with that. All right. Hope that helps, Jay. Take it easy.
What's up, Jay? Yeah, so I'm just about to have a little look at this footage for you. Got my pen and notepad ready, so let's give it a watch. Shot number 1. Shot number 2. Shot number 3, okay. Shot number 4. So which shot came from which camera? I'm going to go with shot number 1 as being the iPhone, shot number 2, Blackmagic, shot number 3, Blackmagic, and then shot number 4, iPhone. So iPhone, Blackmagic, Blackmagic, iPhone. Now the reason for that, I think there's a couple of telltale signs. First one, depth of field. You don't really get any depth of field on the iPhone shots. Everything's in focus. And then number 2, the noise. There's a little bit of pixelation in some of the iPhone shots, particularly the number 4. You can sort of see it in the shadows, whereas 2 and 3 look a little bit cleaner. They also look a little bit sharper. And then there's also that little bit of wobble, that stabilizer wobble on shots 1 and 4, which you don't get on 2 and 3. So that's my reasoning. That's what I'm going to stick with. How easy was it to spot the differences between the 2 cameras? I think relatively easy, providing I'm correct. If I'm right, then yeah, I think not too bad. But if I'm wrong, then obviously it's far more difficult than I think it is, because I did a terrible job of picking which was which. So there you go. But hopefully, I think I got it right. iPhone, Blackmagic, Blackmagic, iPhone. But the difference is big enough to be distracting if you're watching a normal video. Generally, no, I don't think they are, honestly. It's only when you start pixel peeping, you start really looking into it, can you see the differences? I think for certain shots, it could be distracting. The second shot, for example, you get that little bit of depth of field with the grass and the children's play area. If you were shooting something like that with the iPhone, what I think would be the iPhone, you wouldn't get it. Everything would be in focus and it wouldn't look quite as nice. But for most shots, I don't think anyone's really going to notice or really care all that much. But that's just my opinion. Depends what you're doing, really. But yeah, that's what I think. I'm sticking with it. Hopefully I got it right and I just haven't embarrassed myself on Jay's channel. We'll find out.
Thanks, Jay Lippman, for allowing me to illustrate that I probably don't know what I'm talking about. Cut to the chase. I think numbers 1 and 4 are iPhone, and I think 2 and 3 are pocket cameras. Quality-wise, there's not like a huge apparent difference in any of these shots, and I think they could easily be cut together. I wouldn't imagine that most people would notice any difference whatsoever. Since they were so similar in terms of quality, there was really no obvious things to really jump out. I started looking for things like motion. So all of these look to be handheld, and shots 1 and 4 have kind of that ibis look. So there's like a gentle kind of swaying motion to them. And then shots 2 and 3 have a lot more, kind of bounce to them. So they're not quite so evened out, I guess. A couple other things that I noticed in this one, the plane of focus, is kind of this kid's toy thing, whatever this is. And it's not, maybe I'm just grasping at straws. It seems like in the corner, the focus falls off a little bit. I just thought, whatever lens you're using here maybe has soft corners a little bit. So it just kind of had more that feel to it, like a bigger sensor camera with interchangeable lenses. Number 3, in the background, everything's in focus. So you're definitely focusing back there. And there's just a slight focus fall off here in the foreground where the stuff on this desk isn't sharp focus. Whereas in this shot here, everything in this scene is perfectly focused. So that just leads me to believe that one would be the iPhone. And then there's also just a very slight kind of like shimmery artifacty quality in like some of this detail stuff in the background. So again, like maybe with the lighting and like that real small sensor, it's kind of having a hard time resolving all this really, like all this text and all this really fine detail. But it's not anything that you can really notice unless you really look. The last thing I'll mention is in shots 1 and 4, they have kind of a cooler cast to them, whereas shots 2 and 3 have a warmer tone overall, a warmer color cast. Summing up, 1 and 4, iPhone, 2 and 3, Pocket. I hope.
Hey Jay, thank you so much for having me here. One of the most important things for me in a camera is dynamic range. So when you tell me to compare a footage between an iPhone and a DSLR or a cinema camera, it's you think this is going to be easy because mostly because of the size of the sensor. However, lately, companies like Apple, for example, have been developing so much the cameras. You send some stuff and I've been checking, and I think I have a pretty close idea of what is what. Let's check it out. Now, regardless what lens you use, and probably you record and log and you apply some color correction and color grading, and probably you have to match the two colors of the... Apart from all that, the number 1, it looks beautiful. Let me get my eyes. Number 1 is beautiful. It looks very nice. It's it has no distortion whatsoever, and I think this is number 1. I think number 1 is the iPhone 13. I think. Now let's go to number 2. Number 2 is not as sharp as the first one. So I think number 2 is the Pocket 6K. Now, number 3 is the most difficult one. Why? Because number 3 is very sharp. So you say right away, this is the iPhone 13. Usually, well, depends what lens you use, like I said at the beginning. But usually, cinema cameras are not that sharp. The problem is, speaking about dynamic range, the problem is that in the window, outside the window, you could see a tree outside. So if this is the iPhone 13, I'm selling my 6K Pro because the dynamic range is impressive. I would say number 3 is the Pocket 6K, but the toys on the left, they're very sharp, and it looks like an iPhone, but the problem is the window. So the dynamic range is too much. And number 4, I believe number 4 is the Pocket 6K, but again, because on the left is not very sharp. It's difficult, man. I thought it was gonna be easier, yet I'm here struggling between number 3 and number 4. Okay, but we need to say what it is, so what we thought. So let's say number 3, I think, is the iPhone 13, and if it is a hell of a phone. And number 4 is the Pocket 6K. Again, Jay, thank you so much for having me here, man. I appreciate that. See you around.
So, you asked me to judge the photos and guess what is iPhone 13 Pro Max. versus what is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K? And my answer is, I would say for the first photo of like the house with the bricks, that is definitely the iPhone. The only reason I think that is because Blackmagic cameras have a very distinct look. Depending on what type of grade you put on them, they have this kind of, well, they look like a cinema camera, but they have this kind of yellowish tint sometimes, depending on if you're filming in RAW or ProRes. But the reason that this makes me think the first photo is an iPhone is because iPhones have this weird, they still have it, okay, their pictures they look pretty good, but they still haven't developed enough to make them look like a DSLR. DSLRs have a very, very distinct look, so you can tell they're DSLRs. But whereas this, the shadowing is a little, it looks like an iPhone, and the saturation, when color grading, unless you film in RAW with the 13 Pro Max, with color grading, you can't really do much to a iPhone's pictures because they process them and then color grade them basically. But moving on to the second one, the picture of that like little playhouse, it's definitely the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K, because the grass, like I said about that yellow tint, has this very distinct look. Especially with the first Blackmagic Pocket Cinema, there is definitely a yellowish tint. But it all also depends on what type of grade you do. So moving on to the third one is definitely the Blackmagic because, again, that yellowish tint is there, and it's very distinct, and you can't tell unless you're looking for it, but you can tell that because the lighting is way better than the iPhones, because on the fourth one, newer iPhones like the 11 and up, they have this weird lens glare thing, where they'll do this kind of glow. It's almost like a starburst lens. So that is what makes me think the third one is the Blackmagic, and then the fourth one is the iPhone.
I kind of came to the same conclusion. Yes, you can absolutely tell the difference between iPhone footage and Blackmagic footage, but that's only if you know what you're looking for and you're kind of pixel peeping. Other than that, it's very hard to tell the difference, especially if you're very intentional with your composition and your exposure and your color grading. If you can do that right, then in the context of a story, if you're just watching a normal video, you can absolutely intercut footage with an iPhone and a Pocket 6K. I'm honestly a little bit surprised at the outcome of this video. I thought that maybe it would be a little bit easier to tell the difference between the iPhone footage and the Pocket 6K footage. I didn't think that it would really take knowing exactly what to look for and pixel peeping in order to figure it out. But I am very, very happy that that's the case, because this once again opens my world up to be able to do more. Because I just figured out that you can import Camtrack AR data, which is from your phone, into Unreal Engine, which is going to come very, very much in handy in my next episode of Scenes. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.